All right, welcome everyone to Wrestling Mindset, another live video that we have here. Really a sad time, obviously, for wrestling. I know what it's like competing. So both of my younger brothers, we all wrestled. We were all Division I wrestlers, and I can't even imagine. My heart goes out. Our heart goes out to everyone during this difficult time. Obviously, first and foremost, we always pray for the safety of everyone, anyone affected by the coronavirus. Obviously, first and foremost, physically by it, and then also there's the mental and emotionally, and that's we talk about a lot with Wrestling Mindset, right? We talk about our mindset, and where's our mindset right now? Obviously, things are crazy. Getting the NCAAs canceled, people have literally worked their entire life for this moment. They've been prepared for this time, and the opportunity gets taken away. Like I said, we express nothing but the most heartfelt apologies, and our hearts go out to everyone. Obviously, again, first and foremost for the people who are physically affected, but also all the wrestlers who were affected, were not competing at the NCAAs. And the first thing I think about is, really, I go back to when times are tough, you go back to ultimate questions in life. You go back to your purpose. You go back to your principles. And we talk a lot about with Wrestling Mindset, our mindset principles. The first one being, I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. And of course, you could relate that to anything. You could relate it to school or life, right? We're thankful to be alive. We're thankful to be in school. We're thankful to wrestle. And we just realize, how delicate life is and how fragile even our wrestling careers are. That the rug could get pulled from us at any time. A lot of you wrestlers know what it's like to have a serious injury. A lot of you know what it's like to be out mono or the flu right before the postseason. And obviously something like this can happen where you're all set up for the NCAAs. Global pandemic takes place. Whatever, I don't know the exact details of everything, and you never know how serious certain things are and everything, but boom, there it is. It gets canceled, and there goes the NCAAs. So at any point in time, things can get taken from us, whether it be an injury, a sickness, a circumstance in life. You might go back to thinking about our grandparents or great-grandparents who fought in the war, and now imagine that, right? I think about Ted Williams, one of the greatest hitters of all time. Joe DiMaggio, one of the greatest hitters of all time. What happened in the middle of their career? World War II. A lot of those people, they came back. They were never the same after that, and athletically being the least of which. So when we talk about being thankful, that really is a lifestyle, and that's something we gotta put into perspective. And we talk about the mindset, and of course this is of course it's our business. It's the way we make a living and everything, right? So of course there's the business end of things, but really, our biggest purpose, we think about our purpose with Wrestling Mindset and winning mindset in general. We do it because these are the lessons we wish we had. And now with my wrestling career being done now for quite some time, and our mindset coaches, our career might be done for a long time. It's been done for a while now. We still have all the lessons that we've learned from wrestling. Okay? And looking at the big picture, again, being thankful for the opportunity to wrestle. But I think back, I might have a lot of real good technique right now, or I might be physically strong, but I'm not using my physical strength on the mat anymore. I'm not using my technique on the mat really anymore, except when we're doing clinics and showing moves. But when I think about mindset is life. That's how we respond to adversity. That's how we handle difficult situations, things coming at us. Struggling in all different areas of our life, whether it's in a job in the future, losing a job in the future, failing out of a program in the future, a difficult breakup, any kind of adversity, your mindset follows you for the rest of your life. So we always say with Wrestling Mindset is you have to use wrestling as a vehicle to build virtue. You have to use wrestling to make you a better person. So we take all the lessons that we learn in wrestling and we got to apply them to our entire life. And when I was at my doctoral program, we studied about personality. We studied personality psychology, and we learned when is character revealed? When is your character revealed? And probably common sense, something you probably already know, but your character is revealed when you're in adversity, when times are tough. You find out what you're made of when times are tough, not when times are easy. Okay, I worked with St. Joe's Montvale today. I did a retreat for the juniors. Worked with, a lot of them were athletes, a lot of them weren't. We talked about mindset, we talked about faith, a lot of different things. And I said, if I take a sandbag and I throw it down on the ground as hard as I possibly can, what happens to the sandbag? It stays on the floor, right? If it doesn't burst, it stays on the floor of the sandbag, right? Now, let's say I took a lacrosse ball and did the same thing. Let's say I threw it on the ground as hard as I possibly can. What happens? The lacrosse ball bounces up and hits the ceiling, right? It goes really high. I throw the lacrosse ball on the ground. Why? Because it's all about the properties that are in the sandbag. It's all about the properties that are inside the lacrosse ball. When you find out what the lacrosse ball is made of when it hits the ground, you find out what the sandbag is made of when it hits the ground. So when times are tough, that's where you find your internal properties. That's where you find your virtue. What are you really made of? Where's our virtue at? Or lack of virtue? And look, nobody's perfect. We all struggle at different times, but it's how do we recover? How do we make ourselves better than we were before? So we have to, even though it's a difficult time, we still have to see opportunities. We still have to see opportunities to improve. We can't be excuse makers. A lot of times we make excuses, and when something negative happens or something unexpected happens, a lot of people go the other way. You find out what they're made of, and they go the other way. And this would be the time that we work on areas that we can work on. You could still work on your mindset. You could still work on your nutrition, your strength training, something we're going to be releasing. One of the things we did before Wrestling Mindset, you see the big Z on our shirt. The reason why we had that was because originally we had a fitness business called Z Fanatical Fitness. 10 workouts, 10 minutes, and no equipment. All you need is your body. You are the gym. So one of the things we're going to be releasing, we're going to be pumping that out because a lot of you, maybe schools are closed, gyms are going to be closed. You might want to be staying away from different facilities. You can't get in there. You have to still find a way to get stronger. We came up with body weight workouts, 10-minute legs, 10-minute abs, 10-minute arms. Okay, so we have a 10-minute plyometrics workout, a 10-minute wrestlers workout, 10-minute cardio bout. So we have all that kind of stuff. We're going to get that out now. We're going to get that information out so you can make sure you're still working hard. We want to make sure you're still... Can you shout me out? Dr. Iwu, shout out. Holla. Right? So, yeah, making sure that we're still getting better. So our mindset is one of the big areas we can improve on right now. So we're constantly pumping out great information. Make sure on our YouTube page, our Wrestling Mindset and our Z Winning Mindset page. 2 separate pages, but Wrestling Mindset page, our Winning Mindset page, we're constantly flooding great material out there. Okay, it's all free. So you go on it, make sure you click the bell, make sure you click for notifications, make sure you subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. So when we're releasing these new videos, now, because a lot of our coaching conventions that we were going to, they're canceled. A lot of teams that we were going to work with in person, we're not doing that right now. A lot of teams, the key is it's going to be virtual training. It's going to be live Skype. It's going to be live Skype. It's going to be live Google Hangouts. It's going to be live webinars. It's going to be phone conference calls. So we're not letting this slow us down. And you better not let this slow you down either. I get it. Times are tough. I think about it. What do we tell our athletes when you have a bad match? You have a bad match? You're struggling, right? What do we say? After a loss, you have the 5-minute rule. You give yourself 5 minutes to be upset. You know, you're down. Oh, granted, this might be something a little bit longer than that, right? But you give yourself roughly 5 minutes to be upset. And then what you have to do is, as a logical, rational human being, you know that you can't change. You can't change what happened. We could change. We can't change the circumstances. We might have just lost or wrestled poorly. So what can you do? You can move forward. So how do we get better? And this is what we do. We take this time, we give ourselves the 5-minute rule to be upset, to complain, to point the finger, all that kind of stuff for 5 minutes, and then as a logical, rational human being, you realize you can't change. You can't change the circumstances, And now what you have to do is you got to move forward. You got to move forward. You got to find a way to get better. So, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you got to come out the other end of this better. Okay? You have to look at the bright side of things. I think about after an injury, when an athletes get injured, a lot of times people jump on our mindset program after they're injured, when athletes are hurt. So that's the best time to do mindset a lot of times, because now you can't physically train. Just like this right now. A lot of times we can't physically get in the gym, or our practices are canceled. The serious athletes, it's not going to slow them down. And you got to be ready to go at all times. You never know when you're going to get another chance. Just like you never know when an opportunity is going to be pulled from you. You never know when a new opportunity is going to be put in front of you. So you got to be ready. The best ones are going to use this time as an opportunity to get better. Watching more video footage. Working on our mindset. Working on our nutrition. Thinking strategy. When I'm out there competing, visualizing, extra time visualizing, goal setting, and our action plan. As we said, one of the biggest things we want to do with our goal setting is we don't want to focus too much on the outcome. We want to focus on the process. We want to focus on things that are in front of us. So when we do that, Mom and Dad, how's it going? We want to make sure that when we're focusing on what's in front of us. In other words, anytime there's a change in your schedule, and right now everyone's going to be faced with a change in their schedule with school and workouts. Anytime there's a change in schedule, you need to update your action plan. Okay, so when I was a personal trainer, helping people lose weight, helping people get more fit, right? I would sit down with them and I would do an intake. I would do a first evaluation, an orientation to the gym. You'd sit down with them. Were you ever on track with your fitness goals, with your nutrition, with your exercise, right? And almost everyone shared this in common. Almost all the people that I worked with at the gym as a personal trainer, almost everyone was on track at a certain point in their life, nutritionally and physically with exercise. And I asked them, okay, well, when did that change? And for almost everyone across the board, it was a schedule change. Whether the seasons changed, they got a new job, something happened where their schedule changed, and now it totally derailed them. So what we tell our athletes from a mindset perspective is anytime your schedule changes, you need to adapt your action plan, which means you need to put the pen to paper, and you got to say, okay, technically, how am I going to improve now the practice is canceled? You could do it. You could find a way to do it. Viktor Frankl, who was a psychologist, he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and he spoke about during the Holocaust when, people were trapped. They were, imprisoned. It was terrible. And what one of the people that was in there, he studied how did a lot of people survived, a lot of people didn't, and he was trying to find out what helped survivors, right? What were some of the things that helped? Of course, some people, but it's a general thing right here. And he said that a lot of those people who survived, of course, not all of them, but it was a lot having some reason, having some kind of purpose, and finding ways, having meaning. Having meaning was the big thing, having purpose. So those ultimate questions that we talk about. And he said that one golfer in the Holocaust actually improved his golf game while he was there, and then eventually he was freed by Americans. And what did he do? Every day, he would play a full 18 holes in his mind, choose the club, hit the shot, and eventually when he was freed, his golf game was just as good as when he went in, which is crazy. But it shows the power of the mind, and it shows that he didn't let himself off the hook, and he had meaning, right? So that's what we got to have in tough times. We got to have meaning. We got to have other ways that we practice. We got to have other ways that we get better. So setting an action plan. How am I getting stronger? How am I going to get more explosive? Doing more plyometrics. How am I going to build tendon strength? Right? That's an important thing. We got to make sure that we're building our tendons. You should be training your tendons 3 times as much as your muscle. Are you stretching? Are you going to get yourself more flexible? Are you working on your mindset? Perfect time to do mindset training. Are we working on our nutrition? Are you are you improving your nutrition during this period of time when you can't improve anything else? Your mindset, your nutrition, your flexibility. You can work on your technique even if you're just shadow drilling. Muhammad Ali always spoke about the importance of shadow boxing. and how he's able to get better boxing, even sometimes without even having a partner, right? So that's what we got to do. We got to find a way to make the best of things, and you really find out what you're made of in times when times are difficult, not when times are easy. So again, it is a challenge. We're not downplaying it at all. Like I said, I can't even imagine if that was me or my brothers when we were competing, training your whole life for a big event, and then NCAAs are canceled. But that's what makes us wrestlers. We're wrestlers because we're tough, and we don't let things keep us down. We get off our back. We get off our back. So what I want to do now is just open up the floor for any questions, anything that you have for me, and we want to make sure that all wrestlers know that we're here to help, and we're happy to talk to anyone during these tough times. Like we said, it's simple, but it's not easy. We got to move forward. We got to make the best of it. That's a simple thing to say, but it's not easy to do, and a lot of it really does come down to getting organized. So, any questions you have for me? And thank you all for joining us. Fault versus responsibility. We actually just hit on this with St. Joe's today. Will Smith, because Will Smith played Muhammad Ali in the movie. That's why it's going on in my head. But so what happened? Will Smith has a great YouTube video where he talks about the difference between fault and responsibility. And we all have different circumstances in life, right? And the situation we grew up in, or things that come at us down the pipe, any kind of whatever might happen to us. This would be a perfect situation, right, with the coronavirus, and a lot of us, your seasons are derailed, NCAAs are out, right? Things just didn't work out the way you planned. A lot of seniors, and you can't get it back, right? So that's not your fault, right? Our circumstances aren't our fault. I know there are a lot of times where our circumstances are our fault. I know a lot of times I got in trouble. Yes, it was my fault, right? But there are a lot of things that aren't our fault. And even if it was your fault, you can't change it, right? After you've made the mistake. But it is your responsibility how you handle it. So Will Smith made very clear that if you want to be successful, don't dwell so much on whose fault it is. In some regard, who cares? I mean, learn from your mistakes, but ultimately it doesn't really make a difference. It's your responsibility to improve. So it's your responsibility to make the best of this. My dad and I were just talking about this when he used to go on audits, business trips. He'd come back different information for us, and he said when he was on a plane, he read this book. It was called it was an inspirational book. If you want a rainbow, you have to put up with the rain. I still have it somewhere. It's in it. I have it in my notes. It's actually at my parents' house, but I know where it is. I still have the book that he gave me, and he said, "Say hi, Jude." Hi, Jude. And he brought that home, and it was an inspirational book, and that might have been one of the things that inspired me to go into mindset training and to be a mindset coach. So he brought it home, and there was a story of two people who were two salesmen that were out in the Australian outback, two sales agents that were in the Australian outback who were selling shoes. And one of the salesmen came back and said, "No opportunity here. The natives don't wear shoes." And then another salesman came back and said, "Great opportunity here. The natives don't wear shoes." So think about that. It's during tough times you have to really... Hi, Drew. Hi, Landon. What's going on, guys? So it's during these tough times where you really have to say, which agent are you? Are you the one who just complains, or are you the one who makes the best of things? And I want you to be the one who makes the best of things. I want you to be the one that, great opportunity, natives don't wear shoes. That can be you. That's a choice. The good thing about that is that requires no talent. And it's okay. I see, a lot of times we laugh, we joke around on here, and sometimes people are writing funny things. Hey, Landon, what's up? But it's okay as long as we're learning lessons, as long as we are thinking and we're putting our heads together and we're getting better. So it's no one's fault, but it's your responsibility to make the best of it. That's right. Let's get them. So what other questions? How do we feel about the NCAAs being canceled? Naturally, it's a terrible thing. I mean, I don't know again how we never know how serious the situation actually is. It seems like experts have deemed that it's important enough to call it off. Obviously, safety first. I know that'd be probably the last thing I want to hear back when I was competing, But ultimately, we have to remember that life is bigger than sport. We got to, it's what it is. Best advice to make smooth transition from college wrestling. And that's a great question going right along with this. We have to remember that, the lessons that we learn in wrestling carry us throughout our life. Okay, so it's very important. The transition has to be, as soon as our wrestling career ends, we see a lot of times people will get stuck in their wrestling days, and which is great that we still exercise, but now we have to move all of that focus and all that drive towards our career, towards our relationships, towards our family. Otherwise, if all you get is being a national champ or an Olympian, and you don't then make that transition to life, you've made the biggest mistake. You've lost the biggest battle. Okay, because our biggest wrestling match is against life. Right? What does Rocky say in Rocky Balboa, Stallone? Is nothing's going to hit harder than life, right? But it's not about how hard you get hit. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you could get hit and keep moving forward. So making sure that we are moving forward. Should you check the bracket before you wrestle? I mean, you're probably going to know what you could. It's not saying you can. When we talk about not checking the bracket when you wrestle, we don't want you to be preoccupied with it. So when you see what your mat number is, that's basically pretty much all you need to know. You don't want to be thinking too much about who's in front of you. Otherwise, it gets in our head. You're better off just going out there and wrestling. Should I check my opponent's record before I wrestle? No, because it really doesn't matter, right? Records don't matter. Good. Any other questions? Anything else we can help you with? Like I said, it really is. This really is. You have to look at it as an opportunity to get better. We have books. Let's see if I have them over here. 1 second, so it should be over here up against the wall. I'm coming. If you hear me. Guys, these books, these Predator Mindset books, I tried to keep it real simple. It's really not that hard to read, and my wife helped me format the whole thing, so it looks really nice. But this would be a really good thing, a simple thing you could read just to get some general mindset information, and especially how we're to approach wrestling, school, and life, being a Predator on top. On top. I said top because I saw what you wrote here. Favorite top breakdown to turn. Chop arm. Can you discuss strategies to recruit high school students from other mainstream sports to try wrestling? How does visualizing help your wrestling skill? Can this dude even see my legitimate question? How do I visualize? Yeah, we have, so it's part of our confidence series about how to visualize. And think about it, you're already good at visualization. If I said picture your mom, or picture your dad, or picture your house, or picture your school, you could visualize, right? So now it's just learning how to harness those skills to succeed in wrestling. So you're already good at visualizing. Some people think they can't visualize. You can. Because I said picture your best friend. You could picture them. All right, what else did we have here? Can you discuss strategies to recruit high school students to other mainstream sports? I think just understanding how much better shape kids are going to be if they come from wrestling. So even if wrestling wasn't their sport, wrestling is going to help them be better for anything that they do. Because wrestling is so holistic. Like we just talked about, mindset, nutrition, technique, strength, tendon strength, flexibility, plyometrics. Like what sport won't that help? Right? So wrestling is just going to make you more well-rounded for life. And also, again, mental toughness. Dobbs, what was your question? It says you never answer questions. What was the question? I'm sorry if I missed you, buddy. What's your question? You just got a spam. Oh, it's a spam name? If there's a question, I'm happy to help. Chop arm. Yeah, as I'm saying, chop arm to feed it into the cross wrist. Do you think Olympic trials will get canceled too? It looks that way. It looks like the Olympics. It really looks like the Olympics are probably going to be off also. We got to be prepared for that. And you never know though, but you got to be ready at all times because they might say they might say to you, hi, Paul, they might say to you that, okay, well, they're going to do the Olympics in a non-Olympic year. Maybe it'll be 2021. Maybe it'll be 2022. So you never know when an opportunity is going to be thrown at you. That's why we say you got to be ready to go at all times. You should be training at 90% all year round. Okay, that doesn't mean you can't take some time off. It doesn't mean you can't shift focus a little bit, but you should train at 90% year round. It's like if they decided to have the States at any time, you got to be ready to go. Hi, Paul. One more time. What are your thoughts on the 2-on-1 into a single, then a leg hook to slam, then into the mat? Yeah, if you get that move down, they won't touch you. Funny guy. Any other questions? My state tournament just got canceled today in Ohio. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But how would I help move myself forward in life? Well, Dill, I guess is Dill. Said I know it's tough. I can't imagine that. But sometimes we just get dealt a crummy hand in these situations, and it's how you move forward that defines you as a person. It's how it defines you as a man, right? For men and for ladies, during adversity, that's where you find out what you're made of. So, what did we learn in wrestling? What are the life lessons and our mindset that we took from it? Using the weight cutting to now in the future make good health conscious decisions, to exercise more, to lift more weights. What can we do? What can we do to improve? How do we it's how you set your goals. It's how you live. And we talk about our mindset principles. I'm thankful for the opportunity. I'm aggressive and relentless. I have no fear of losing or making mistakes, and I never ever give up. Right? Those all apply to life. We got to be thankful for the opportunity. We got to be aggressive and relentless. We got to have no fear of losing or making mistakes, and we never ever give up. So wrestling for all of us comes and goes one day. Sometimes it's ripped from us because of an injury, a sickness, or maybe something like this, and sometime or whatever, or eventually your career ends. So we got to move forward, and we got to be able to make the best of things. You might think about this also. Our grandparents, great-grandparents, who they had to fight in a war. Imagine being drafted in a war. That happened. That was a reality for a lot of people. A lot of Major League Baseball players. If you ever saw the movie League of Their Own, where the women were playing baseball, what happened? The baseball players had to go fight in the war. The men had to go fight in a war. So, and they lost a lot of the times the better part of their career. That was their livelihood. Remember, it wasn't like those baseball players were making the kind of money that modern baseball players were making. Most of the players for the Yankees back in the 60s had winter jobs. Think about that. So, that all those ball players, they weren't making the kind of bank they're making now. So that was a job, and again, they had to fight in a war. So we got to learn the lessons from sports. Let's see. What else do we have? I hope that helps still. Like I said, sorry to hear about that. That is rough, but I believe you come out of the other end of this better, right? Yeah, our primary identity, we can never be too wrapped up in the fact that we're wrestlers. I get it. We're all working hard. We all, like a part of us, it's kind of like you never stop being a wrestler. Like once a Marine, always a Marine. It's kind of like that with wrestling. Once a wrestler, always a wrestler. And you do always have that. Remember, our biggest wrestling is against life. But the kind of person you are extends far beyond wrestling. I think about our worksheet, Mental Toughness Week 2. And that's, who are you? What are your values? What do you believe? What's your meaning? What's your purpose? That's so important to know, and one of the big reasons why we do that is because if you look at the great warriors of all time, the U.S. military, the Spartans, the samurai, the Aztecs, right, the Apache, what do they have in common? Two things. They know what they believe, and they're willing to die for it. All right? So a lot of times when adversity hits, or we get nervous, or anything like that, it goes back to, who are we? What do we believe? That gives us the mental toughness to move forward. So we got to know who we are. And that doesn't change whether we win or whether we lose. That doesn't change whether we have a wrestling season or not. We need to know who we are. So it's one of those ultimate questions but you could be massively successful, and if you don't know who you are, eventually sports are going to get taken from you, right? Even if it's just from time, eventually you retire, and you got to know who you are. What are you about? So we never want to define ourselves in terms of what we do. We don't want to define ourselves in terms of a sport. We're much bigger than that. Okay? What else do we have here? Do you think seniors should be granted another year of eligibility? Vince, what's going on? Sounds good. Right now, that sounds real good to get another year eligibility. But maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. It's one of those things that's outside of our control. I hope it'd be nice to see people get another crack at it. But the interesting thing is now a year goes by. Obviously, a lot of those will be different results than what we would have normally. Whatever we would have seen this year, we might see a completely different NCAAs this year. So even if they did get another year of eligibility, it's great. They might get another opportunity at it. You might see a totally different result. And even then, people still get sick. People still get hurt. People still have job careers. People still have careers that they're pursuing. Not everyone does the 5-year plan, right? Sometimes people move on to the next stage of life. So it'd be great to see them get another year eligibility. We don't know if it's going to happen, and that's not in our control. We got to be ready to move forward no matter what happens, right? It's a tough thing. Let's see. What are they doing about the Olympics? I don't know about the Olympics, what the story is going to be with that yet, but it doesn't really look good. I have not tried jiu-jitsu. Do you think fasting is a good way to lose weight and not have to cut weight as a wrestler? I guess everyone fasts from food from time to time with that, but that wouldn't be. You got to have a plan. You got to be organized. I try to take all these questions serious because it's people do think about it's like, well, just not eating to make weight. If you want to be really successful, you got to study successful people and you got to have a plan. That's what I always say with mindset. You got to have a plan. Your nutrition, you got to have a plan. Your strength training, and just because gyms get shut down, practice gets shut down, the best people will still be getting better because eventually sports will be back. Eventually your sport will be back. And what you did right now and how you responded to right now is going to determine how you do out there when the time comes back. And for those of us that our career is over, okay, it's a crummy way for it to end, no doubt about it. But we got to make it a positive. We got to get our head back, and we got to move forward. We got to get off our back. That's what we do in wrestling. We get off our back, right? Someone mat returns you, they're going to have to mat return you 100 times. And even if they mat return you 100 times, you're going to stand up 101st time. They're going to have to do it again. So remember back in high school, what's this? If coronavirus, what are they going to do? What are you going to do to prepare for it? Yeah, we just got to take safety precautions, right? We're not touching our face, washing our hands frequently, drinking a lot of water, get a good rest. Keep stress low. We're more vulnerable when we're stressed, not getting enough sleep, not having healthier nutrition, not thinking positive thoughts. If it's negative all the time, stress starts going up, we get ourselves more susceptible. So being smart. How do I get my mind better throughout school? What do you mean by that? Get your mind better throughout school? You mean in terms of how do you focus more in class, or how do you take school more serious? Dobbs, what do you mean by get my mind better throughout school? So I could help you. Help my mindset. Yeah, so you've got to remember school is critically important because it's one of those things. First of all, even in college, even if you were just thinking about sports, you got the NCAA clearinghouse. So you're not going to be able to wrestle if we don't make the grade. That's first. And next, remembering also that eventually our career comes to an end. What do you want to do the rest of your life? So even if you're an Olympic champ, and it's like, okay, you're 27 years old, you got the Olympic gold medal in your living room. Sounds great. That would be awesome, right? But now you have a lot more time to live. So what do you want to do with your life? Right? You got to know what that is. So now when I'm thinking, so when I was in school, I got to look at wrestling as fun. And I want to be an NCAA champ. But the goal is to eventually have my own mindset company. I want to help people like all of you here, right? I want to speak to teams and work with individuals all across the country of all sports. So I knew I needed to get certain degrees for that. I had to get 2 master's degrees, one in clinical psychology, one in exercise science and sports psychology. So I knew I needed to do well in school. I mean, when I was growing up, I could have been a much better student. But once I knew what I wanted to do with my life, well, I buckled down in school because I had a purpose, right? So your purpose is more important than your goal. So even when because I know a lot of times in school, let's face it, you're going to take a lot of classes that you really don't need in life. You're going to take a lot of classes you really don't need. And it's hard to get motivated for that. But what you have to say is, okay, I might not need this class, but my grades have to be important for me to move on to the next level. So I get a good job with a good starting salary, right? So I could get into the graduate school, the business program, the doctoral program, the master's degree, whatever it might be. So setting yourself up. And also it's not just doing it for the grades. It's not just doing it for your goal, but it's also building virtue. As we said, wrestling has to be a vehicle to build virtue, right? So if you become a virtuous person, use wrestling to make you virtuous, and then you'll be good at anything you do. But if all we're striving for is success, we may never become virtuous. And then our relationships are going to struggle. Our life's going to struggle. Our career's going to struggle. School's going to struggle because we might just be thinking sometimes too much about wrestling success. Focus on wrestling success, of course, but do it to get virtuous, to build virtue, to build character, to build mindset, to build all these qualities of a champion, those inner properties, that inner self, which is going to make you a champion in anything that you do. That's what virtue is about. All right, team, I feel like we hit on a lot. As we said, I'm here. I'm happy to talk to anyone about this. We're real sorry about what happened. The NCAA has canceled anyone's state tournament that's been canceled. I know it's a tough thing, but we're wrestlers. You know, we're thankful for the opportunity to compete. It's always a blessing to get to compete. It's a blessing to be in school. It's a blessing to be alive. It doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes it's difficult, and we got to talk ourselves into it. But deep down, we know that's true. All right, so let's make sure that we treat it that way. Answer my question. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut out on you. What is it? I'm sorry, I didn't say it. Remember, you're talking and reading at the same time, so it's a little tough. No excuses, though. I want to answer your question. What is it, Landon? Try to scroll up. Do you think strength or skill is more important when it comes to wrestling? Oh, skill, definitely. Because if you don't have the skill, you won't be good at it, right? I mean, you could be real strong. Think about it like this. I bet you a lot of you can beat someone you probably could go up against one of the top football players in your school, and you could be a lightweight, and you could probably beat the tar out of some of the biggest football players on the team if you wrestle, right? That's your answer right there. Skill comes down to skill. Of course, strength is important once people have skill. Otherwise, they wouldn't have weight classes, right? If strength wasn't important, they wouldn't have weight classes. So if people say strength isn't important in wrestling, that doesn't make any sense, right? There wouldn't be weight classes. But we do know, it's skill. Anything you want to be good at, you got to do it a lot. It's very simple. The best writers write the most. The best wrestlers wrestle the most. The best piano players play the piano the most. The best speakers speak the most. Right? It's not overly. We don't want to make it overly complicated. Whatever we want to be good at, we got to do it a lot. We got to log in hours, and it's not just practicing. It's conscious practicing. It's good practicing. It's not practice makes perfect. A lot of people say perfect practice makes perfect, but forget about perfection because that's not going to happen. It's intense, consistent, constant improvement in practice makes for mastery. You become a master. What's your mindset when losing and the clock is winding down? Well, it depends if you're down by a little or if you're down by a lot. If it's only a 1-point match, you're just looking, get another takedown. Like, stay consistent. Don't think about the clock. Number one, don't ever think about the clock. Just keep scoring. You want to know why a guy like Logan Stieber was always real good at getting takedowns at the end of the period? Because he wasn't looking at the clock. He was just always looking to score. That's the first wrestler that comes to my mind with that. But never look at the clock. Just keep scoring. And then another thing that one of my friends always said, if you're down by a lot of points, you need a home run. Everyone needs a Hail Mary move. Maybe it's a headlock. Maybe it's a lat drop. Maybe it's a Julio roll. You know, if you don't know what a Julio roll is, and this my friend, my friends Gerard and Andrew Perez, they always said this Joker Wrestling Club. He always said it. Andrew always said you got to have a home run, and for him, that was his Julio roll. Gerard Perez, Joker Wrestling, shout out to him, my first personal coach and mentor. He shows the Julio roll on his video. Andrew shows the video, or Gerard shows the video of Andrew's big move, the Julio roll, and that was his home run. So that would be good. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. All right, team. Again, thank you for joining us. We're here for you. Any questions? Like we said, we might not be able to improve as much as we could physically, maybe doing partner drills, being out, or practices might be closed down, clubs might be closed, tournaments might be closed, but we can get better in wrestling. What can you do? Start with that. And a lot of shadow drilling, a lot of visualization. We can work on the mindset. So make sure you reach out to us about the mindset training. If you want that free trial, we're happy to give that to you. Reach out to us. Drop us a DM. We're happy to help you. Your team, a lot of coaches I know are on this. We could work with your team still on Skype, Google Hangout, webinar, and conference call. So we still get a lot of work done. Remember, we work with our athletes. We work with almost all of our teams on Skype, almost all of our individuals on the phone. So there's no reason mindset training ends at all. I'm seeing a few other questions. How do you manage your time throughout the day when you have lots of things to do? So, yes, you can DM me. So the time management, talk about that. That's very important. What are we really talking about? We're talking about getting organized, right? So that's an action plan. We do that with goal setting week 3, where we set aside an action plan so we know what we're doing on not only a daily basis, but a weekly basis. One of the things we have with Wrestling Mindset is called a plan of life. So the plan of life is what you're doing on a daily and weekly basis to become better in all areas, sports, school, and life. So again, thank you all for calling. Anything you guys need, we're happy to be here for you. And we'll talk to you soon. Drop us a DM if you want that free trial session. Take care.